So, start with our morning keynote. The title is Time Gone, the Influence of Technology Over the Years. I've already taken you on one journey back. This is a high-level view looking at the future, present and past of technology in FM from someone who was there. A fellow FM pioneer. I was a customer of facilities and property management back in the 90s. I've shared many stages with this guy. He's one of the real pioneers of FM. Managing Director of Agents for RM. Please welcome Lionel Prodgers.
Thanks, Martin, and good morning, everyone. I hope I've covered all the genders in that introduction. It's not so much a keynote speech, I would say more a warm-up act, and I've got to cram 50 years of experience in the workplace, from corporate real estate through to facilities management and even up to today in the space of 20 minutes. So it's going to be a fast, I hope, fast-moving presentation. This is a cartoon by a friend, Ken Pine, who is a noted cartoonist. When I asked him to do a series of cartoons for FM World, and he immediately grasped the problem of trying to determine what was FM. Does anybody know, are we any better informed today? Do we have a good definition? So it took me back, 2003, I gave a presentation at a EuroFM conference in Budapest. And for that I prepared a 20-year timeline from 1983 to 2003. These are the slides from that presentation. And I was explaining that we had, in the UK, there was a curiosity as to why the UK was more advanced than other European countries, and indeed probably even more advanced than the US in terms of outsourced FM at that time. And whether you rate her or hate her, Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan did a great deal to prime the supply side of the economies. PFI became launched under the Tories, transferred into PPP for when Labour and Tony Blair came in. And if you recall, those of you that are not quite in the 70s, but 50s, 60s, remember the privatisation, the outsourcing, the industrial disruption at the time, all in the name of change. I was explaining that they were the influences in terms of politics of what was driving this outsourcing and FM response in our own industry. And then there was the background of commercial. There were lots of mergers and acquisitions, privatisation. A lot of the companies that are in existence today are born out of original privatisations from government, mergers and acquisitions, management buyouts. Those of you that are in those organisations will know the background. And then we go on to technology development. Look how crammed that is in that space of time. And as Martin's already said it, if you remember PCs in the home, internet, mobile devices, Amazon, all of these coming on stream. I was going to try and do a sort of little poll of hands, but let's just do one. How many of you owned a BlackBerry? So you're all older than I thought. How many owned a Pilot Palm? Yeah, it's diminishing. How many owned a Scion? Yeah, that's more or less as I expected. The progression as we've gone on now with mobile devices in our hands, let's not forget, a lot of inventions came at the time, and then a lot of innovation followed, all within the space of 15 to 20 years. But going back just a fraction, look at some of these issues. Glass was invented 2,500 BC. Elevators, 1852. Light bulbs, 1879. Revolving door, 1988. Vacuum cleaner, 1901. Lasers, LEDs, 62, 60. RFID 73, World Wide Web 89, Global Positioning Systems 1993, just a few to mention, and we could spend more time on each of those, but we don't have it. But moving from invention to innovation, innovation in elevators over 100 years is pretty rapid. And this is a multi-level automated car park in Delhi. Look at the transformation and look at the speed of transformation in that time. This one fascinates me. Vending was invented, I think in 100 BC was the first vending machine. I'd just like to give you a little anecdote on this. This apparently was invented by a hero of Alexandria to dispense holy water. And as you can probably see from this diagram, you drop a coin in the top, it touches that lever, which opens a valve and a drop of holy water pops out. There was no health and safety in those days, and of course the coins actually dropped into the water. So I'm not entirely sure it was that pure or holy. Innovation in cleaning. Look at the style and the efficiency of the vacuum cleaner that's come on over a century. Notably still advertised in a sexist way, but we perhaps ignore that for the moment. Whereas street cleaning has moved from being represented as a man and a horse, an electric vehicle, an avatar. It isn't that long, and so updating it 2003 to 2023, and again there's not enough time to pick on all of these things, but this is the growth in innovation in technology, more or less related to our industry in the last 20 years. So, as Martin has referred to, the big boys, IBM, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, are all coming into this space. They're all acquiring different businesses. They're all innovating on their major platforms. And so, IBM acquired Maximo in 2005. Blockchain was implemented in 2009. IBM acquires Tririga in 2011. These names may mean something to some of you, but some of these companies were at the forefront of FM technologies. UK government publishes its BIM strategy for adoption in 2011. Oracle acquires Aconex. Those of you familiar on the construction side will know that Aconex is the go-to software for the construction industry. 5G expansion in 2019. MRI acquires Trimble's Manhattan division, and then also acquired FSI in 2021. And so this isn't going to stop, this is going to carry on. And mergers and acquisitions are going to continue to shape the way things are. And then we come into some interesting areas of innovation in lighting. So I think we all applauded the introduction of LED to save energy in terms of power consumption and energy efficiency. And now we're going mad, because we've got LEDs, to light up virtually everything that's in sight. As you see, this is the nighttime skyline of Qatar. If you start to come into the City of London and any skyscraper around the world, it's beginning to become a light show. Who would have thought that there was a need to create the International Dark Sky Association? It really does exist. It's got many members, and its mission is to stop light pollution and to counter what we're seeing in terms of the buildings that we're lighting up, to actually try and reverse it to make the skies dark again. Some 15 years ago, I remember reading an article in The Economist stating that 3D printing would change the world. I thought, nah, can't see that. Now we see medical equipment, skin, aircraft parts, food printing, bespoke medical nutrition, molds, tooling, and this in 2022 is a quarter-scale 3D printed jet engine replica that actually works and spins at 2,000 revs per minute. Maybe The Economist was right, And if you read any article on 3D printing now, all of it is about the change that's going to come in the future and change our world. I'm sorry, Martin, but I have to mention it. So this is the first mention of augmented reality. As distinct from virtual reality, it doesn't necessarily require a headset. Mobile devices can overlay digital content onto the real-life environment and its objects. This is being tested in a large project I'm currently working on in Abu Dhabi, and believe me, it works and it's in use. And that's only the beginning, and of course, as we see with all technologies, it will improve over time, and I don't think it will be too long before we are seeing engineers and maintenance people using augmented reality on iPads, overlaying it on the work that they're carrying out physically. More catchphrases, the Internet of Things. We're finally seeing in real time connectivity between devices and are able to monitor and easily control things. The interesting thing about new technologies, and particularly mobile technologies, is that the companies and industry that is developing and innovating on these things is doing on a massive public scale. They're not looking at the FM industry or the maintenance of buildings or the management of buildings to actually develop their ideas. What we're seeing is it's for the public to use in terms of deliveries, managing security systems, heating, lighting, air quality, audio-visual, cookers, all accessible while you're on the 615 from Paddington, or now actually on the tube 24 metres under the ground. So I won't have a show of hands, but personally I've got most of these things, using it on my app and controlling these things wherever I am, whether I'm in the house or outside of the house. It doesn't make any difference. It won't be long before these are applied in our industry and in commercial buildings. Of course, in some areas they already are, but the driver that I've seen in the past is that once people become used to instant information and be able to see in real time what they want to see, so those demands will come from occupiers of commercial space and public spaces, that they're expecting now to actually instantly access relevant information that they need. I like this cartoon from it's a Canadian company involved in building information modelling. So we now have a thing called BIM wash. That's where people are pretending that they know everything about building information modelling, but actually when it comes to it, know nothing at all. We all like to use the catchphrases, and it's not only in BIM, I suppose, over the years, but we've all become used to sort of going with the flow and pretending that we actually understand what's going on, but actually are only scratching the surface in terms of our knowledge. So I'm showing here six dimensions or levels of BIM as it is today. And mostly projects are only up to level 3, which is the three-dimensional fly-through, look at your building attributes, finishes, and in some respects looking at assets. The big struggle we have at the moment with projects that I'm working on is there's a reluctance at the design and construction stage to bring the technical data of the physical assets of the plant and equipment into the 3D model, into the BIM model. It's beginning to happen, but it's not universally accepted. And we come back to strategic thinking in these areas where people are not conversant with it, people are not prepared to put the time and the effort into it. But you can imagine, as I'll come on to in a minute, when you're going through the life cycle of design, construction, commissioning, warranties, indemnities, operations, it really does come into its own. but a great deal of effort has to be put up front, and of course it's a costly exercise. But what's missing from here is what's known as 7D, which is the holistic facilities management information for the entire life cycle. That's the ultimate ambition of the BIM modelers and those that are promoting BIM software, where everything relating to FM is collated into a single place. We've yet to see it, and I'm not really sure that it's going to be anytime soon. And if it ever materialises, maybe BIM will be a thing of the past, or we'll only get to 3D and we'll move on. The point I'm wanting to make is none of this is new. This isn't just innovation today. This is a slide from a time I was seconded to Siemens in the year 2000. So over 20 years ago, we were still looking at the challenges then and now to find the best way to interrelate as opposed to integrate systems and processes. A term that we coined at that time, calling bridging the physical and the digital. These are all the things that we as workplace managers or facilities managers need to deal with, and of course much more because things have moved on since then. But you get the idea, I hope, from the illustration that that's the challenge when we're talking about information management and looking for technology solutions. And of course, every element that we've got here has a technology application, if not 10 or 20, that could be looked at in terms of managing that specific thing or task. So when I was talking earlier about the criticality of BIM modelling at the design stage, we have to start the process for modelling the operations from the very outset. And certainly I'm encouraged now, because most of the work I do is in the strategic thinking of some really quite spectacular and interesting developments in the Middle East. And it's a serious assignment to act as an FM consultant in the construction project. This one we developed for a project in Kuala Lumpur in 2012, and we still use it today. It's a handy reckoning on what we need to do, what we need to understand, when we're actually at the outset of looking at design and looking at the process and the planning. And apart from the construction project management plans, there's a huge facilities management project plan in parallel with the construction program in order to get to that operational readiness. Another project that we were involved in was the new Abu Dhabi airport. And those of you that are in the aviation sector will know that ORAT, operational readiness programs, are key to getting the certificate for the aviation sector bodies in order to operate the airport and to open it. And it's critical that all of the facilities services, right the way down to maintaining the baggage handling units, etc., is documented and is planned and is in that process. So I would advocate going back to the beginning where you're looking at new projects. You can, of course, do it retrospectively, but better if you can actually get in at the beginning. So when it comes to technology and integrated technologies, this is our sketch of a model when it comes to the utopian idea. You'll see on the right there you've got the stakeholders effect ranging from the enterprise, which is usually the asset owner, the occupiers who are the customers, you've got the management providers, and you've got the service providers. And essentially they all want to access the same information that's relevant to them through this unified web interface, which is where we're at today. All of that needs to go through a processing system, but for my money, I think it's going to stay this way. I think you'll see the FM applications in the top box all being applicable for a specific need or a specific service. You'll always have the business technologies, which are the ERP systems, the financial systems, QA, comms, procurement. And then you'll have client systems such as CAFM, AutoCAD drawings and the like that need to be kept up to date. And then you've got third-party systems such as BMS systems and the like. I really don't think this is ever going to get integrated into one simple seventh dimension BIM model. Someone may disagree with me and present that this morning. But as you'll see here, it's essential that data is kept in the place that it's best kept in, so long as you can access it. And now with the advent of the reporting tools and the dashboards, essentially from a management point of view, that's what we need. We need access to real-time information, accurate information, relevant information, and we didn't get here in one go. As you can see, there's about 10, 20 years recently where much of this has been developed into our industry. So yes, I heard the click of the glass. I've seen some, I don't think if David Sharp is here, but I saw an article he wrote on IFM's site a few weeks ago, criticising not necessarily me, but those of us that are using these sorts of images as if it was the future and this is how facilities management is going to be. I'm not going to argue with David particularly, but it's an illustration not of how we run facilities management, but it is an illustration. If you ever go to a modern airport, this is what you will see. This is how integration is happening in terms of the asset management, critical systems, security, civil defence. Everything is coming together on the wall with individual experts sitting at the wall looking at their specific area of expertise in order to respond as quickly as possible. So with that, I'm going to pass over to the next speaker. Thank you very much.